All right, folks. Hey, YouTube. This has been a long time coming. It's been quite some time since I've done a video. Just real quick, we are on 10.69.2.2, and we are going to do my test loop. I'm just going to throw it out there that starting off, we are probably going to have to disengage right away just for some speed bumps that it still doesn't recognize. But on 10.69.2, I actually was having a really horrible experience with it the first 2 or 3 days, and then all of a sudden it got really amazing. So I'm very excited to see this build. It's supposed to have a lot of polish building off of what 10.69.2 has done, and already, you know, it's turning out to be a pretty good drive. The slowdown there coming up to the intersection right there was pretty great. Just checking to see we're still recording. There was a car coming onto the street and it appropriately got over to the right and slowed down. There's a person here and it is kind of aggressively going toward them. Okay. It got over a little later than I would have. Here's where we have to slow down because of the speed bump. It tries to take those at about 20 miles an hour, which, oh, and there's a Chicago rat. I have been getting some wonky behavior with the auto brights on this street. It's basically like flashing all of the neighborhood residents. Again, it's going about 24 miles an hour, and these speed bumps are really big. So you need to go about 8 to 10 miles an hour over them. It has struggled a little bit even on 10.69.2 on these roundabouts, but it looks like it's gonna do it. I'm seeing it chart the path, and that was great. That's something that Beta has gotten on maybe like 2 out of the 7 or so versions that I've tested. And that one was the most confident it's ever been doing that. So very impressive. This is my first drive after installing 10.69.2.2. It puts on the turn signals. It's getting confused right here as to which way to go. It's doing a weird creeping logic at this intersection. It's a stop sign though. Ultimately, it decided to bail. I did see it. It did the path for a second the correct way, going around that pseudo roundabout, but it ultimately bailed. I'm gonna pop it down
in 500
here.
feet,
okay.
Your destination will be on the right.
I was reducing the speed, and it was coming up a little too quickly on that reversing car that was getting into a parking spot. So we are going to cancel stop A so that it continues on the route.
Now your destination is on the right.
Nope, we don't want you to turn. We want you to go straight. So I will disengage if it tries to go right. But it's not, it's rerouting. It rerouted pretty quickly.
Now turn right onto North Ashland Avenue.
Faster than the last version, 69.2, but 69.2 is actually pretty good with the reroutes. We've got that creep and pulling onto the road, and that was really good. It's been doing this almost all the versions, but sometimes it would really hesitate or be way too aggressive and speed up like a banshee and pull into the left lane. So that was much more human-like. That was really good. Part of the reason I haven't updated any videos is because when I've tried the previous versions, the last 3 or 4 versions have been so bad that I'm just like sitting here being pretty frustrated with how poorly the car's doing. It's not to say that I haven't had good drives with those other versions, which I have, but this test loop specifically it's got a lot of scenarios. It's got kind of like pseudo highway driving. It's got right turns. It's got unprotected left turns. It's got left on red turns. It's got residential streets, speed bumps, roundabouts. It's got a little bit of everything. And where the other versions were handling just kind of like a basic normal street in Chicago. It wasn't, those other versions haven't been handling all those other kind of edge cases or more uncommon road features. So that FSD Beta just decided to clean the windshield. So that was all the car. It decided the car on the right was going a little too slow. It's also planning for the fact that it's going to have to turn left up here. Upcoming, so like in 3 more lights, when we turn left, it actually is a fork off the main path. The normal road starts to kind of ease to the right. We fork off to take a left arrow. And what happens is where you stop, the left arrow red is telling you, you know, to stop, not go.
Turn left onto West Rose Hill Drive.
But the rest of the road has a green normal intersection light. You can see it right there to continue going. And I have had a couple different times where the car's been in this left-hand turn lane and it's tried to go while the left arrow is red because it sees that green light to the top right. So I just have to be really cautious here with my foot on the brake pedal to make sure if this light up in the top right corner turns green, the car doesn't decide to go. Because you can see cars on Ashland Avenue, which is a pretty main throughway in Chicago, they tend to drive fairly fast, between 35 and 50 miles an hour on this kind of like pseudo residential highway, urban highway, if you will. So we are green arrow, good to go. We are taking a nice trajectory of a left turn. We're going to slow down because of the next stop. I will edit that out.
Your destination is on
We
the
will
right.
reroute and keep going. Oh, that's great. It started to actually pull over to the side of the road before it rerouted, which is perfect. That's what we want it to do. So all around, super pleased. Right here, it's keeping right where I would drive in the lane. It's not doing any of the searching in the
500
road.
feet, turn left onto North Ravenswood Avenue.
I'm very impressed so far. I don't want to curse it, but this is seeming very polished. It's driving very human-like. So I'm quite excited with this. This is always a tricky spot. So you have a 4-way stop, but the roads are
Now
askew.
turn left onto North
They don't
Ravenswood
evenly
Avenue.
line up. So the car has to creep out a little bit. It doesn't really need to because it's a 4-way stop. But when it takes the turn, the lane that it should go into is way further to the right than it thinks it's gonna be. So I had to give some accelerator there to get it to go. It got a little tricked up there. So I'm gonna record that one. It seems to always get that intersection a little bit off. If there's a car stopped,
500 feet,
it typically
turn
does
left onto
better.
West Fremont Avenue.
But even here, like where it's deciding to stay on the road is perfect. In 69.2, it was staying
Now
too
turn
far to the
right
left,
onto West Fremont Avenue.
even when cars were coming. It would kind of stay in the middle of the road until they were upon us, and then it would scooch over to the right. Right there, it was driving exactly in the spot that I would have as a human driver. And we're taking a nice cautious right turn, but not horrible. Plenty of humans would have driven it just like that. Once we get past this stop sign, I'll take out the C marker so that we can continue without slowing down up here. Okay, good stop. Continuing on. Now it has a habit of, yes, I have it offset to 12% over at 34 miles an hour. It has a habit of taking this turn too fast though. There is a sign to say slow down to 15. It doesn't seem to do that. And it oftentimes crosses into the somewhat unmarked bike lane. Like right there, it crossed over into the bike lane. It shouldn't have done that. It should have just slowed down a little bit more. Maybe not to 15, but like to 18 or 20. Good, nice stop. typically continue on with no problems through here. The last couple versions, actually, something I've complained about in the past is slowing and hesitancy with these double stop signs that we have in Chicago. So this is there so that if there's a truck on the right side unloading and this stop sign is obscured, to still stop because there's a stop sign on the left, and so that you don't come through and hit someone who's coming in the other street. Okay, it's slowing here. It's never actually slowed right there, so I give it some accelerator. But it's been getting the Chicago style stop intersections, the double stop signs, correctly. So it will stop fully and then it will proceed through without hesitation or without slowing halfway through the intersection. So that's been fixed on the last 3 versions. I think 10.12.2 and then 10.69.2, it's also been fixed, and then now on this version as well. Now the pose that it's got right here, I would have actually, had I been driving alone, I would have corrected it to pull further to the line to the left so that a car would have been able to get in the right lane and turn if they needed to during the red light. But I just didn't catch it, actually. I was too busy talking. Going pretty slowly through here. It actually captured the school speed sign. Okay, we got it out of the way for that parked car to let traffic proceed. So we pulled into the bike lane, a really natural human-like maneuver. Pretty impressive. I'm telling you guys, it's getting really good. Okay, it started going before the car was out of the intersection, just like a human would. Pretty excellent. We maybe have a drunk driver in front of us. A little bit erratic with the driving up there. And it actually should be at 30 now, which it is. I'm going to, when we get past this next stop sign, take out the next marker so that we can continue routing and going on our way. Again, I expect us to move fully through this stop sign. Okay, it's waiting for these people actually, which is good. That's a lawful maneuver where you should wait. They started walking, that car was coming through the intersection. So that was like super lawful, really perfect. I probably would have just been a little bit rude and continued through since they were blocked between us and a car. But that was excellent. Again, like, cops aren't going to pull you over and give you a ticket for that. Here I would scooch up probably 4 extra feet, which I'm going to do that now. I'm just going to give it a little tiny light bit of pedal. And the reason being, just with the size of the turn lane, it gives one more full space for a car to be behind us in the left turn lane. So it's just something that like Chicago drivers tend to do just to be a little more considerate of other drivers. We got a green arrow here. We should continue through. Let's see this trajectory. Last time it cut into the turn lane, which it looks like it's doing again. I had to give it some accelerator there. We're gonna record that because that was not perfect. We cut off the intersecting roads left turn lane. Very comfortable, easy, nice, smooth stop. It stops a lot like I would stop to try to make my passengers feel comfortable and not get thrown around by the regen braking. Okay, that's another thing. So the car tends to swerve out of the way of bikers like this instead of just pulling to the left portion of the lane and easing past them and continuing more straight. I think the swerving behavior is definitely what humans are going to do to train it, because that's what a lot of suburban drivers will do. You got a biker on the road and they'll pull into like the middle of the road to go around a biker. In Chicago, you don't have as much road real estate. So when you have bikers in their bike lane, you just pull to the very edge limit of your lane and drive straight. If you start swerving around them, swerving out to the left and swerving back to the right, it's just not... Bikers are expecting you to drive in a forward path past them in like a very calm fashion. So I think okay, I had to overtake there, tried to go in the parking lane. But anytime you got the swerving, it just adds a lot of like, the oncoming traffic is going to see you swerving, the biker sees you swerve. It's kind of unnecessary, because everyone on Chicago roads is expecting like you're going to behave in a very predictable fashion. And the most predictable fashion is to give a little bit of room, a little buffer, and drive straight. Not weave to the left, weave to the right. It's unpredictable, and it's really not appropriate. So I think it's something that's been trained because of the neural net and human interventions. It makes sense. But I do think Tesla's going to have to specifically go and kind of change that up and polish it. Especially for like, have some logic gate where if you're in an urban center with bike lanes, don't swerve around the bikers, just ease out around them. Okay, doing really well here. I'm going to take out the next stop so that we can continue on the trip. This should give us an unprotected left turn at a green light with no arrow. Again, super comfortable. Distance keeping, braking, accelerating, lane keeping. Everything's been like almost exactly like I would drive. Maybe a hair, like ever so slightly harsher braking just then than I would have.
Turn left onto North Broadway.
And we're probably gonna swerve around this biker even though we don't need to. Okay, we didn't that time. I would turn on my turn signal already. It was maybe a half a second late.
Turn left onto North Broadway.
And I'm hoping my head hasn't been in the way of this video the whole time. It's probably been flying into frame a little bit here and there with some of the bouncy roads. Okay, unprotected left. Okay, it swooped out a little bit. Okay, and it hesitated because that man started to walk across the street as we were taking the left turn. That's fine. We got a beep at us. I'll record that. I had to give it some accelerator to get through that. I could have just waited because there was no oncoming traffic, but when someone like that is clearly jaywalking, typically in Chicago, you proceed as if they're acknowledging traffic and they're like allowing you to continue on, and they're going to kind of thread past you. So a lot of people that are, panhandling, asking for money in the street, or pedestrians that are willfully jaywalking, that's not, on a walk arrow or a walk light or a normal crosswalk section, they will expect you to continue your move through the intersection.
Turn right.
So that was good. We should get in the right lane now, and then I think it's going to turn us into the parking lot to finish out the route. A little bit fast here, but then good slowing. It already dropped down to 15 miles per hour for the parking lot speed. A little bit awkward there with those people and kind of positioning itself like it was going to drive into that pole.
Now your destination is on the left.
Which it's done on previous versions as well, but I think this was a little smoother, If it's going to threaten to crash the vehicle, it did it smoother. So all things said, much more polish. We're getting quite a bit closer. It still has a lot of the same issues that it has had, but all the driving in between those specific smaller issues is much, much more polished. So hope you enjoyed this. Give it a like and a subscribe, and we'll be seeing these robo-taxis on the road not too far into the future. Take care.